Although Elon Musk obtained not one but 2 degrees, he is not someone who credits his college education to his success. In fact, he feels just the opposite. Elon has his own way of learning anything he wants. It is simply because he's honed certain techniques for learning. And if you acquire these techniques, you can become a much better version of yourself. That's for sure. Elon attended the University of Pennsylvania and received his bachelor's degrees in both economics and physics. He intended to obtain his PhD from Stanford University in California but left soon after to co-found the web software company Zip2, along with his brother Kimball. He never looked back. Musk has been very vocal about his criticisms of the modern education system. Quite simply, he doesn't believe that students are learning rapidly and thoroughly enough. He certainly doesn't think that there is enough emphasis on critical thinking and problem solving. Musk decided to take his education into his own hands, turning instead to textbooks and individuals with specialized knowledge to help guide him. One of the first people he contacted was a man named Jim Cantrell, who, according to his LinkedIn profile, describes himself as a subject matter expert in satellite systems, worked for the French space agency, worked from 1990 to 1992, then came back to the United States, where he began consulting for aerospace agencies. So Musk heard about Cantrell and how valuable a person he would be, so he called him out of the blue in 2001. Who had never heard of Musk, later described him as the smartest guy he'd ever met, period. Musk told him over the phone that the two of them needed to speak, and he eventually probed Cantrell for information about the possibility of sending a spacecraft to Mars. The future SpaceX founder had just been rejected by the Russians and was looking for a little guidance. He allegedly went to the Russians to purchase rockets in his quest to put one on Mars, but the price tag was enormous at the time. Musk was not a billionaire, though he had made a few million, so he could not afford what they were asking. His solution? Build the rockets himself. That's where Cantrell came in. Cantrell, intrigued by the proposition, allowed Musk to borrow some of his textbooks. He lent him titles such as Rocket Propulsion Elements, Fundamentals of Astrodynamics, and the International Reference Guide to Space Launch Systems. Pored over these textbooks, just to name a few. From the books, Cantrell would later say that he was unsure whether or not Musk took notes on the information in the books, but what he did know is that Musk appeared to have memorized close to everything he read. Because of this, Musk was equipped with the knowledge and the vocabulary to carry on conversations about rocket science, astrodynamics, and other topics. After reading the textbooks, Musk developed the very plans for the rocket that would eventually be used by SpaceX. Cantrell recalls thinking to himself, "I'll be damned if that's why he's been borrowing all my books." The mechanical engineer was impressed not only by how much information Musk had absorbed, but how much he had applied in addition to collecting textbooks. Another principle had Musk follows in his quest for self-education by surrounding himself with the best and the brightest. They would strike up conversations with the best in their field, acquire their knowledge and expertise through discussions, and then try to replicate that knowledge when they applied it to their endeavors, such as with SpaceX. In fact, Jim Cantrell actually worked with Musk at SpaceX for a time before moving on to his own ventures. In Dubai at the World Government Summit in 2017, Musk said this about the power of asking the right questions. "I came to the conclusion that what really matters is trying to understand the right questions to ask, and the more we can increase the scope and scale of human consciousness, the better we are able to ask these questions." It is for this reason that he keeps a close network of industry experts, some of whom he even employs. You might ask just how much reading it takes for someone to become a self-educated rocket scientist. The answer is quite a lot in a 2017 interview with Rolling Stone. He admitted that he was raised by books and then by my parents. He credits his time spent reading to how he became as successful as he is today, and his reading history is an impressive one. As you might have imagined, the famous adage, "a jack of all trades is a master of none," is definitely not applicable to Elon because he is a great example of someone who is very successful across multiple areas. When he was just 9 years old, he reportedly read the entire encyclopaedia Britannica and then moved on to almost exclusively reading science fiction novels for about 10 hours per day. So it comes as no surprise that Musk recommends books about other geniuses who have lived long enough to believe the book. Musk learned a lot about leadership and his mission to change the world by reading all those books, even though the average person probably doesn't have 10 hours a day to devote to reading. Of the richest and most talented people will tell you that one of the secrets to their success is that they read constantly. Warren Buffett reportedly reads between 5 and 6 hours daily, making his way through a handful of newspapers and financial documents. Asbill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, and Mark Cuban are among the other billionaires. They all attest to the power of reading and the impact it has had on their success and business acumen. If you are interested in building your knowledge through books the way Musk has done, it won't guarantee that you will be at the level of a rocket scientist in a short amount of time. Musk can't even call himself a proper rocket scientist. He simply accrued an impressive amount of information, but what separates Musk from people who just read books is that he applies the knowledge he acquires. Musk has stated that he has two basic principles for knowledge acquisition and application. The first is that he acknowledges a sort of asemantic tree in his words. Encourages people to make sure you understand the fundamentals, i.e., the trunk and big branches, before you get into the leaves or details of the thing. It is not enough to just cover material. In his opinion, you have to delve into every detail and sector. This is the principle he used in teaching himself about rocket science. He studied every particularity to ensure that he understood it completely. His second principle is that it is nearly impossible to remember what you can't connect to the correct function of your brain, and acquiring knowledge is not just storing random facts in order to learn the way Elon Musk has learned. We have to practice putting that information to use. Musk didn't merely memorize what he was dreading in those early textbooks. He actually used the material to create the plans for the rockets that Spacex would eventually send into orbit. He follows a building-out philosophy: start with the base, add more knowledge as time goes on, and then apply from there. Another way to put it is that you should tackle the core first before you get caught up in the more superficial details. Spacex founder Elon Musk's thoughts on education extended to what he looks for in potential candidates. He's famously said that if an applicant doesn't have a college degree, that doesn't preclude them from getting a job. Musk is certainly someone who practices what he preaches in that regard.